Hello friends, hope everybody's doing all right. This Monday, it's a hot one. We are packing. I'm with my kids today and trying to get some packing done before we go hang out with some friends at the beach. And this is what my bedroom looks like. It's a total mess. Boxes, everything's off the walls. And we're moving to Richmond. We're very excited. Our little homestead house place that we're going to be in. And I wanted to do a video though because in the midst of all this chaos that I'm going through, just busy time doing a retreat at Shabig Island, my parents' cottage there in a few weeks, the same weekend that we're moving. So I won't be there for the movers at least, but the week before that we're going to be at the house after our closing, painting our new house, getting new carpets, appliances, all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff we're doing, but just taking it one step at a time. But in the meantime, there's all this other, this interesting, strange time going on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about just some of the things that I've personally been noticing and picking up on, and what chances are some of you are as well, that might be helpful. So a lot of confusion, a lot of division, and conflicting beliefs on how we can get through this time. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because even though I know there's some people who get very triggered by this, hopefully those people will pause and consider if they're listening to this, and those of you who are not getting triggered, you may know exactly what I'm talking about, or you understand. So, we all have these different views about what's happening with this virus situation, and how to get through it. And I think there are some who think, well, we're just going to get through it by doing what we have to do to keep everybody safe and following all the rules, and we just it's just temporary. We're willing to sacrifice for the greater good, right? What a noble thing to do, and honestly, I honor that. However, there's some of us who may have a little more skepticism about the powers that be and taking advantage of this situation to create mass compliance and taking away constitutional rights. So, the truth might be somewhere in the middle, to be honest. But as it always is, and that's kind of what I usually pick up on. But we feel it. We can't help what we feel. We can't help what we believe. And what I find to be really sad right now, but I think we'll get through it, is how there's a lot of censorship going on and shaming people for believing what they do believe, and just judging, condemning, when you can't really help what you think. It's just you feel something you don't, right? And yes, compassion is so important. But here's what I think, and I've shared this with a few of my family members, my birth family members, who see a little differently than I do, that we all have these different roles to play. And some of us are, doing what we feel like we need to do to help get through this. But that's our choice. It's not up to us to tell other people what they need to do to get through this. And some of us are really fighting to preserve freedom, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us want that. And even though we don't want to believe that there are, those in control that are trying to do these nefarious things to us, that's a sad way to believe. That's true. It's a sad approach to take in the world. But if you also connect the dots, you start to see throughout history, throughout lots of different incidences, that's what's really been going on for thousands and thousands of years. So, really so there is some of that. There's some people who I know personally, this has happened to me as well, who've been, kind of shamed into not speaking. You're dangerous, irresponsible, reckless is what I've heard a little bit. And, some of this has to do with the mask wearing. A lot of it has to do with that. And all the rules and the negative effects on society. And then there's, it's important to see both sides, that there's people who are scared. It's a real virus. It does kill some people, not very many though. And, it's like, where's the balance? How can we be cautious and reasonable and be respectful of other people who are scared and who are more at risk, without our own personal bodies, and yes, I'm talking about mandated vaccines, and what we put on our bodies, face coverings, goggles, whatever else comes down the pipeline, it goes too far. it says, okay, I'm willing to keep a distance, I'm willing to be respectful, I'm willing to do the best I can to help people help make sure everybody's healthy and safe, but at what cost to my my life and or people I care about, and what kind of society are we creating when we know that there's a lot that we're not being told. At least I think most of us who aren't living under a rock would know that we just shouldn't trust what we're being told. There's a lot of sketchy stuff going on. Some of it's real, some of it's true, and some of it's not. So anyway, with all of this, before an election, there's something going on, and for me, it's important to also clear a lot of that negative energy and the condemnation, and really what it comes down to is this normal, natural human desire to want to be accepted and to be part of the pack. And so when we're not a part of the pack, when we're rejected from the pack, or when we feel like we feel unsafe, and we feel like you're left out in the wilderness to be killed, because that's our primal instinct. So it's what I've seen is that a lot of people who may feel differently than the mainstream narrative, which by the way is controlled by any quote conspiracy theory, that somebody, or the frontline doctors video, like immediately somebody went out there and was like, write an article saying how that was wrong, and discredit anybody who's saying anything that is other than the narrative, even though it's a potential cure. So I think it's funny, to be honest, how fast some people react in the mainstream media to put out an article discrediting an alternative view, and the censorship is out of control. You wonder, like, why is this being, what happened to freedom of speech? What happened to freedom of opinion? What happened to having different beliefs? And my husband pointed this out to me, that it's really now corporations, Google, well, really it's Facebook, to be honest, and Google and Twitter, and a lot of them are censoring different, people's opinions in the name of protecting public health, a lot like Handmaid's Tale. That's how that started. And keeping everybody safe, and dangerous misinformation, because if we're all just like babies that can't think for ourselves, and we're going to run around spreading as much disease as possible. I mean, come on. That's not, we don't need the nanny state. So, all right. Now that I've expressed my opinion, I needed to clear some stuff, and I've done this energy clearing on my own, and other people I think I've guided into this have found it helpful. It's like, well, what have I picked up on? Going in, a room of your own, I call it sacred room energy clearing. I learned it from this gifted intuitive Kathleen Swinburne, and I use it a lot myself. But what have I picked up on? You decorate a room of your own in your mind. Maybe it's near the ocean or the mountains. Put the colors in there that you like, and then imagine, what have I picked up on? And is it criticism? Is it judgment? Is it anger? Is it worry? Or what emotion is there? And then you pour all the times you've felt that emotion, maybe isolation, loneliness, and pour times you've seen yourself feel that way, or there's other people that have been involved, into this bubble or golden bubble or trash bag, and expand it as big as you can make it until it pops. And you do this one at a time for every emotion. Label the bag or the bubble with that emotion. And it really helps to clear, and it helps to identify, like, I didn't realize that I'd been affected by this criticism or this feeling of isolation. It's if you have a hard time breathing with a mask, or you really feel like it's restricting your freedom, you basically are ostracized from society right now. You can't participate in things. So there's this, it can feel like, being a pariah or something, if for those who are really concerned about that. So that can bring up this primal feeling of just rejection, and then it turns into anger. So I try to rise above that and be respectful, and if I have to, do wear a mask in certain places, I will. However, I try to do it out of a vibration of care and love, and that seems to help me when I'm, it's all about our vibration and the intention we bring into it. I'm choosing to do this, and for some people believe that it's helping them, and they feel that I'm being respectful and kind. If that helps them feel better, I will do it. Within reason, if it's only a small percentage of my life and I don't have to walk around my house or walk around my yard or on the bike or something outside, there's the line that's drawn. So But anyway, back to the sacred room. So when we clear some of these emotions, it helps to first identify what they are and then clear them and then bring in the opposite emotion. What is it that I want to invite in my life? Peace, acceptance, tolerance, joy, love. And imagine times you felt those ways. Maybe there's other people involved, in a big golden sun above your head, and pour those scenes of you feeling that emotion, a big golden sun, and then imagine that sun when it gets huge, that light from the sun pours in your body and spills out through your hands and face, and that really brings back that high vibration energy into our bodies and love, because ultimately we all are trying to do what we believe is right to help. And does it, I also need to be careful of this myself. Just because this is what I believe doesn't mean that you need to believe that. But we have to honor that we each have I would hope that we'd honor that we each have our own truth, something that's true to us. And even with my kids, they'll say, well, I don't know if I believe that, Mommy, or about different things. And I'll say, that's okay. You don't have to believe what I believe. We each are allowed to have our own beliefs. And we don't need to agree with each other, but we can at least respect each other's beliefs instead of telling somebody it's not okay for you to believe that. You're bad, or you're wrong, or you're dangerous if you believe that, knowing that most of us really come from this place of trying to help our society. What kind of a world are we going to pass on to our children, our grandchildren? And we're trying to do good, most of us. We just have different roles in trying to do good. So if we can honor that, and maybe we don't agree, but just the amount of shaming and condemnation that's happening, I hope that we can move past, which I believe we will when certain people get it out of their system. So one last thing I'll say is, in the Matrix, Morpheus says to Neo, the people who are in the Matrix, the programming, they will do whatever they need to do to fight you as long as they're in the Matrix. And we see that happening right now. People are fighting, people who are in denial about the truth of our reality. It's sad truth. We don't want to think that these things have been done to us for thousands of years. It's like being told, there's no Santa Claus, or you're adopted, or something, like a shock. And there's the stages of grief, anger, bargaining, denial, and we see a lot of that right now. Then some people are waking up and going through this depression sometimes. I know I did. And then you go to acceptance. When we go through those different cycles. But for some people, I've seen this in my own family, there's this high amount of irrational thinking that is about, this can't be true, no, that can't be true because of that. It's almost like trying to look for irrational reasons to make something not be true. When if you connect the dots, you take a higher perspective and you look, you see, oh yeah, that is true. Doesn't mean I want to think that the world's bad or that somebody's out to get me. That's not healthy either. But we need to protect ourselves from the programming, because if we don't, we can get sucked in, and it continues to condition our minds. And we believe that, we allow the media and these articles or news to tell us how to think. And yes, this is coming from some of the most unlikely sources. People that one would think would be the most open-minded and progressive and kind people are often being the most closed-minded and judging and condemning others in quite shocking ways. It's almost like their true colors are showing. It's been very surprising to me to see. Yeah, and there's also this thing, virtue signaling, like, oh, I'm better than you, I'm this righteous. Anyway, I won't go there. I guess I need to be careful of not judging either. But it does get hard sometimes when it's this constant barrage of the Matrix programming that's censoring the alternative views, looking for a deeper reason or seeing through the layers of illusion. So anyway, for those of you who are with me, who understand what I'm talking about, keep the faith. I believe that the systems are crumbling, that we're going through the chaos, and that we need to allow ourselves to go through this chaos to get to the light, to the healing. For those of you who are on the fence and are not quite sure what I'm talking about, I just ask you to suspend disbelief, to see if you're triggered by anything I'm saying. If you can take a moment to just pause, breathe, and allow, notice the trigger. What is it that you find so challenging, that you reject? Is it your entire worldview? Does it mean that if you believe that everything you've been taught is wrong. No, it's not, but it does shake our world up a little bit. So, and you don't need to believe anything that you're not comfortable believing. There's no reason anybody needs to do that. So we get to where we are, where we're supposed to be at every moment, and we need each of us to be there to help us evolve and grow into the new way of being, which I think is a very positive one. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.